question 49. This is again for SAT number 11. It's a QAS test. And let's start. So this is from a paired passage, right? These are the ones where we have the two passages, and this is what it says. Which choice best describes the relationship between passage 1 and passage 2? So the way that I usually solve these, or the way that I think about these, is usually honestly going by memory. So usually I have a general impression of what's going on in passage 1 and a general impression of what's going on in passage 2. And that'll help me to sort of figure out what the relationship is. So maybe I'll jump right into the answer choices if I feel confident. But again, like with every other question, I want to start off by going to the text, even if I feel pretty confident that I know what's going on. So what do we do when we want to figure out, this is a big picture, it's a general, we don't want to waste our time. What do we do when we try to figure out what's the relationship between two passages? So first thing I'll do is I'll sort of read through passage 1 again and read through passage 2 again. And this is a skill that you have to develop. And basically what we're doing is as we're reading, we're sort of summarizing it and outlining it in our head, reverse outlining it. So going from instead of outline to text and text to outline, just sort of chunking it in our head to get a basic idea of like what's the headlines for each of these. And I usually just take it paragraph by paragraph because it's organized that way, it's easier that way. It's a skill, it's a comprehension skill. It requires you to read fast. It takes some practice and some experience to get it. But that's sort of the best way, and you can get a general sense of what each paragraph is about. And as I'm doing that, I'm sort of asking myself in my head, what is this about? What's the point of it, right? If you were to basically distill this whole passage paragraph into one sentence, what would that sentence be? So this is sort of what we would end up with. It's sort of something like this, right? Passage 1 and passage 2. Obviously, you're not going to do it. I don't recommend breaking this down. It's just too much time. It's unnecessary. But I just wanted to give you a visual so you know sort of what's going on in my head, or what should go on in your head as we're breaking this down. So passage 1 starts by introduces the scientist Kim Lewis, who created a new antibiotic with novel beneficial effects. That's paragraph 1. Then basically how they approach her team, how they approached and thought about growing these antibiotics, sort of the insight that developed, how they actually grew these antibiotics. That spans paragraph 3 and 4. And then a reason why the new antibiotic may be so effective. This talks about like what it does, because it attacks the cell walls and not the protein. That's the breakdown of that. It's all about her experiment, her science, her methodology, her experiment, her finding. And in general, it's neutral in tone, but it's sympathetic. It's more positive. Passage 2 says basically how Lewis figured out how to grow new kinds of antibiotics. One of the antibiotics they found, teixobactin, and some of its positive features. Some issues and imperfections with the new antibiotic. So here we find the author of passage 2 just basically analyzing this new finding. He's bringing it up, and he's talking about some of the positives of it, and he's talking about some of the issues and imperfections, and then he sort of talks about the future of this kind of study. So he's not necessarily against or opposed to the findings, but he's a little less sympathetic. He's a little more skeptical. Okay. Another thing we can do is we can go to these what I call high density information text, right? There's some stuff in the subtitle, title, there's some stuff in the intro, there's some stuff in the conclusion. So in this case, this is a little blurb underneath the passage, and this is actually very helpful. So passage 1 is titled, "A new antibiotic found in dirt can kill drug-resistant bacteria." Good. It's positive, right? And it's basically all about the fact that this new antibiotic has been found, and that's what the focus is on, is this new antibiotic that's found. This next one is, passage 2 is titled, "This new antibiotic is cause for celebration and caution." Basically, there's some good things and there's some bad things about it. So we're already getting sort of a basic structure of what these two passages are about. Passage 1 is more positive, and it's basically just outlining, here's this new drug. Isn't it awesome? Isn't it cool? The second passage is analyzing and saying, here's the new findings. There's some good things, there's some bad things. Okay. Moreover, we can look at some specific pieces of text throughout this passage. We'll look at those maybe in a moment. So let's jump into our answer choices now. Try to eliminate some options that are there, see if any of the ones in there spark our interest and attention, and maybe we can go back and prove some. So passage 2 offers an evaluation of the significance of the research discussed in passage 1. The first thing that we should notice about this choice is how general it is. Generality is a virtue for these answer choices on the test. It's very plain. Honestly, what does it even say? It says it offers an evaluation of the significance of the research discussion. So offers, gives an evaluation, which is basically an opinion or a thought of the significance, which you could just say of the research. Honestly, this is only saying passage 2 gives an opinion of passage 1, which in the universe, we think of that mantra in our head, hardest to disprove. This is almost impossible to disprove because passage 2 is definitely giving an evaluation. It's definitely giving some thought about it. It's so general, so vague, so plain, so bleached. It's a good answer choice. Moreover, this really is what passage 2 does. It does evaluate the significance of the research discussed in passage 1. For example, let's look at all of these. Here's an evaluation, right? Positive, plus the simple and methodology is the most important finding. Negatives, minus, what are my caveats? Neutral, right? It's less exciting to my mind, though it doesn't look bad. And then basically here's how we're gonna it's gonna take so much time to develop. So we're just evaluating the significance, right? Going back to this subtitle, this new antibiotic is cause for celebration and caution, right? Here's the significance of it. It's a good answer choice. It's probably answer choice. It is our answer choice, but let's keep going. Passage 2 says it suggests a modification to the methodology described in passage 1. So a modification specifically to the methodology, which would be how they ended up finding the teixobactin in the first place, this new process. But as we saw up here, he's actually almost 100% sold out to the methodology. It's the one thing that he's not cautious about. It's the one thing that he does advocate for the most important finding. And elsewhere, he doesn't really advocate modifying that at all. So you can eliminate that option. C says that passage 2 uses concrete examples to illustrate concepts considered in passage 1. This we have to sort of take a general remembrance of the text. Normally, this structure concepts and ideas, and then we dive into a specific story or anecdote or example, and that's not the structure that we have here. It's more like passage 1 gives the full outline of the experiments and says it's good, and then passage 2 takes a more skeptical approach to it. Not C. D says it takes a dismissive stance regarding the findings mentioned in passage 1. Some students choose this option, and there's good reason to, because dismissive stance could match this up here, right? What are my caveats? There's general skepticism, right? Even the title says it's cause for concern and caution, right? Dismissive stance. So here's what we need to do then, is we need to be able to keep A in our head, keep D in our head, and come to a point where we decide, is it between A or D? And we ask ourselves, is it more an evaluation of significance, or is it more dismissive stance? And simply based on the fact that D is more specific and more negative and more strong than A, it has to be A every time to get rid of D. Maybe if there's maybe D could be right in a universe where A didn't exist here, but because A is so much more general, it's harder to disprove. It has to be D, or it has to be A, and D has to be eliminated. Dismissive is just too strong for the evidence that we have, so we get rid of D. That leaves us choice A for question 49.